really reminded me of a perfect starter horror that you would show somebody who was ready to see a little bit of gore, but still needed some fun pop culture references, fun music, and a good kind of light atmosphere in the movie. Great starter horror movie. This reminds me of something I would have picked up off the shelf, and if I would have seen this when I was 15 or 16 years old, I would have absolutely loved it. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Justin here. As always, thank you for clicking on today's video to stop by, talk about horror with me. You can support the video, you can support the channel by liking, commenting down below. I know you guys will. I know you guys have a lot of thoughts, a lot to say about Fear Street 1994. It's been a long time coming. It's finally here, so let's talk about it. Fear Street tells the story of a circle of teenage friends who accidentally encounter the ancient evil responsible for a series of brutal murders that have plagued their town for over 300 years. Welcome to Shadyside. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I have really been looking forward to this show. I've made several videos about it. I'll link those down below if you want to check it out. I've done trailer breakdowns and talked about how the books relate to the movies, but now we actually have the movie, so let's talk about that. First and foremost, guys, if you've been watching the channel as well, you know that I am a massive 80s and 90s nostalgia freak. I love the pop culture and the aesthetic and the movies and the music of the 90s. I talk about it all the time on my channel. And as you probably also know, if you watch TV, if you have eyeballs and ears, in the past few years, that era, the 80s and 90s, has been absolutely shoved down our throats with everything from TV shows and movies, Stranger Things, and shows that have kind of tried to ride the coattails of Stranger Things that really seem to be capitalizing on 80s and 90s culture, especially in Hollywood and movies. And I am all for that, but as you know, with so much entertainment coming out, some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to suck, and some of it's in between. And a lot of that has to do with how authentic your depiction of the era is. If you're watching a TV show or a movie and you feel like they're just shoving the nostalgia in your face and it's not authentic, if it feels forced, it just won't work. So to start out with my positives of Fear Street 1994, I really felt like they handled the era, specifically the year 1994, very well without feeling like it was forced onto you, like they were trying to just stick a nostalgia IV in your arm and keep you on life support for the movie just based on the era. They introduced the movie with some pretty heavy nostalgia, being that the opening scene takes place inside a mall. You really get the taste for the neon color and all the retro stores that are in the store. You got Musicland and Orange Julius and B. Dalton's bookstore, all of the places that I walked around and used to peruse when I was a kid in the 90s going to the mall. I really responded to that. There's a big sequence they don't really specifically say that it's Spencer's Gifts, but you can see all the black lights and all the shit that I used to buy when I was a kid at Spencer's Gift, and it was really cool to see that. The opening scene of this movie is a pretty incredible homage to Scream and just slashers in general, but there's a big tribute shot to Scream, shot where it slows down, he reaches down behind her and stabs her. There's a major homage to that. They do that a couple times in the movie, which is really incredible. There's an awesome Shining homage scene that's really cool, but the big dose, the big push of nostalgia really is in that big opening scene, and then it kind of cools off a little bit and you don't feel like you're just in a 90s time capsule the whole time. After that big opening scene, that's when you start to really zero in on our main characters and we start to settle into the movie and get to know the people that we're going to be spending our time with, the kids that are going to be attempting to solve this mystery that's plaguing their town, that's causing all these damn kids to be murdered. And it honestly, it was a really fun ride. I enjoyed myself the entire time. And I think the 90s era is something that is really going to be criticized in this movie a lot. I know there's going to be a lot of people who say it's too heavy-handed. The only critique that I would give about how they handled the era is at the beginning of the movie, especially like in the first half an hour, every minute and a half to 2 minutes, it was a different 90s song, whether it was Soundgarden or, you know, Pixies or PJ Harvey or all these different songs. It was kind of like every cut was a different like needle drop, and that was a little much at the beginning, but that kind of cooled off towards the end and I was able to just enjoy the ride. Now, as far as all of our main characters that we spend the bulk of the movie with, they were all pretty good. They all put out pretty damn good performances. They were all fairly likable characters. I felt in particular Fred Heschinger as Simon really did a fantastic job with his performance. He's got a ton of charisma. He was a fun character. Benjamin Flores Jr. who played Josh was a really sympathetic character, really honest character that I kind of related to. Maya Hawke is in the opening scene. She's fantastic. That's Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's daughter. She did a fantastic job. We spend the most time with Kiana Madeira and Olivia Welsh, who play a young couple who's trying to rekindle their flame after one of them moves to rival town Sunnyside. Kiana Madeira is our main character, and I thought her performance was okay. At times I felt she overacted a little bit, and that got on my nerves at times. She wasn't bad or anything. She was just a little over emotive in the face, and I just didn't buy all of her performance all the way through. I will say the movie does move very fast, and I felt like some of the character development within these characters wasn't as strong as it could have been. Seems like every scene kind of tends to move really quick trying to get to the next thing. It has an hour and 45-minute runtime, which should have been enough time to sort of settle into some of these scenes and get to know some of these characters, and I would have liked to have gotten to know them a little bit better, because once that big murder happens at the beginning, the rest of the movie is pretty frantic because everybody's freaking out. As far as the R rating, the movie does earn its R rating. Most of the kills are pretty, I won't say tame because people are getting stabbed left and right, but as far as kills go in slasher movies, a knife is usually one of the more tame type of kills that you find in these type of movies. There's basically one really good gore scene towards the end that was an amazing kill. I wish we could have had 2 or 3 more kills in the movie that were as good as this one particular kill. And once you see the movie, you know what I'm talking about, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about in the grocery store. I hope they push it a little bit further in the next one. The next one's going to take place at Camp Nightwing. They're going to introduce Gillian Jacobs' character, which I am really excited for. There's still 2 more movies, so I anticipate that some of the loose ends and the questions that you may have about why this is happening and who it's happening to will be answered in the next couple of movies. But overall, I highly recommend Fear Street 1994. It's such a cool premise that we start in 1994, we go to 1978, and then we're finally going to end up at the end of the trilogy in 1666. So overall, if you guys are slasher fans, if you are nostalgia fans, I think there's going to be something in here for everybody. I really enjoyed this movie. It really reminded me of a perfect starter horror that you would show somebody who was ready to see a little bit of gore, but still needed some fun pop culture references, fun music, and a good kind of light atmosphere in the movie. It's a great starter horror movie. This reminds me of something I would have picked up off the shelf, and if I would have seen this when I was 15 or 16 years old, I would have absolutely loved it. I think if you're in that age group, you're like 14 to 18, 19, you're gonna really connect with this movie. I would say some hardcore horror fans who really like true brutal hardcore horror, this may be a little fluffy for them. It may be a little silly for some horror fans, but if you're willing to take the ride, you like the nostalgia, and you need something a little lighter, I think you'll really dig this one. So I cannot wait for 1978. The one I'm looking forward most to would be the 1666 movie. I'm really looking forward to that one. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. I am so glad these movies are finally here, but I think we're done here, guys. Remember, stay weird, always be yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love making them.